Now, I will be bringing Neil Edwards of the Builders Conference on to the show in just a second. But first, I thought we'd take a quick look at just some of the kind of data that the Builders Conference is able to provide. £9 million has been set aside for the construction of some 71 new dwellings on a site at Court Place Gardens in Oxford. But first, the 38 homes that currently sit on the site require demolition by a suitably competent contractor. According to the research team at the Builders Conference, Midas Construction and Stepnell Limited are slugging it out for the new build portion of the works. But the door remains very much open for a demolition contractor to make their presence felt. You can find out more about that project lead and many more just like it over at buildersconference.co.uk. Alternatively, if you're watching this live, and I know a lot of you are, you will now be able to ask Neil Edwards about that project in person. Good morning, Neil.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well. Earlier this week, just for anyone that's watching, I was speaking to Neil on LinkedIn, and at the time, the BC Live League table was just a few projects short of the magical £7 billion monthly total, with just a few hours of the month left to run. So I guess my first question is, Neil, are we in seven heaven for the month of June 2021?
Yeah, we are. We are definitely. Yeah, we're about £7.2 billion worth of work in June.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's yes, it's another milestone that we kind of keep talking about on a regular basis now. When you're considering the same month last year, it was only 3.7 billion, and we were at the same kind of epidemic levels because obviously we had the major shutdown in March last year. Well, this year we obviously went in January, but yeah, now we're up 7.2 billion.
Unbelievable. We will get into the details, but I'm just going to try and throw up on the screen. I grabbed that yesterday, so I grabbed that yesterday afternoon before we switched over to the new month. So it may not be entirely accurate, but that's what the BC Live League table, or the top 10 thereof, was looking like yesterday. So Neil, take us through. Who was the biggest winner of the month?
Well, this month it seems that the government once again are really pushing out a number of publicly funded projects, which is supporting the UK economy. So number one is they're called Vivo Defence, but it's an actual joint venture between ENGIE and Serco. And as you can see, that they've won, well, the actual projects, there's two there that they've got together. And the first one is for £558 million worth of work. And it's the first phase of the Future Defence Infrastructure Services Programme maintenance and repairs across the defence estate. And this region is the central, including Wales. So it's part of an ongoing programme over the next, I believe it's 10 years of refurbishing a lot of the defence buildings throughout the UK. And the second project is once again, it's their building maintenance, and that one's worth £336 million, and that's more in the southwest. So combined, that's over £800 million worth of work. Now we can't define which is part of Serco, which is part of ENGIE, but so that's why we've made it as a joint venture. But as a whole, yes, that's over £800 million worth of work there. And the second one there on the list is another one of our great HS2 projects. And this one is for a further part of the actual line. It's from Great Worth to Southam in Oxfordshire. And it's the joint venture is between, and I never know how to say this properly, but is it Eiffage or Kia, Ferrovial and BAM? So that's why it's got the EKFB. It's going to deliver 2 stations along the route, civils, but it's £580 million worth of work there. Third on the list is we're back to housing. So the first part of the private money coming in there, And Redrow Homes have started a number of projects this month. There's 8 on the list that we've actually found. And the largest of that is a project at Great Willsley Park, which is in Cambridgeshire. And this one is phase 1 of a development which is going to be about 2,500 new homes, plus primary schools, plus doctor surgeries, etc. But this is the first phase, which is worth about £195 million worth of work there. Fourth on the list is more government works. And this one is actually being picked up by Vinci. And this is military establishments as well. And it's the first phase also of the future developments infrastructure. So Vivo Defence got 2 of the contracts and Vinci got another of the contracts. And this one is in the southeast region. And 5th on the list is the greatest number of projects this month, which is Kiers. Last month, I believe it was Morgan Sindall, but this month it's Kiers. And they've picked up 20 projects, the largest of which for them is a maintenance and response services in relation to strategic road network in Area 3, which is Hampshire, Surrey, Berkshire, Oxford, Dorset, Wiltshire and Buckinghamshire. But once again, a publicly funded project. So if you look this month, the split between private money and public money, they're all but damn it the same, which has not been the case for a good 2 years, where money from the private sector has supported the actual construction industry.
Now, one of the things that struck me there is that a lot of that, the top 5 there, is not house building. I know there was a big one there, but most of it isn't. Does that mean the house building stronghold at the very top of the sector list has been broken at last?
I have a wry smile on my face. No, quite literally. This month itself, let's have a look at the actual real figures here. This month itself, housing is 180 projects we found, but also there are, which is about £1.86 billion. And right behind it is the miscellaneous section, which is also £1.86 billion. And as you know, that a lot of those miscellaneous ones, which I've already spoken about, the Redrow one, which would also become classed as partly miscellaneous, because you've got doctor surgeries involved in that phase. You've got you've got schools and other bits and pieces like that. So, you know, what we're seeing there really is housing is still the lead sector in the UK's construction.
Okay, well, in that case, given the HS2 project and the various bits for defence, does that mean that London isn't the top dog this month? I just I'm throwing balls in the air for you to bat back again here, I think.
Yeah. I would like to say yes, but it's no. But yeah, there's about £2 billion worth of work in London, but the East and West Midlands is not far behind it. It's 1.35 billion. So because of that's the HS2 side of things, and obviously a number of office projects, and also we're still seeing the sector of the hubs of industrial units, or sorry, should we say warehousing or distribution centres, is still very, very strong as a sector. And I can't really see that with the amount of tenders coming through or projects that we see coming through. I can't really see that changing the distribution side of things, because that's the way, the new way we actually buy goods, isn't it? It's not so much via the shop, it's via online. And I think if we saw yesterday, it was a huge, great element saying that Gap are now shutting all their 91 or is it 81 shops. And they're going to an online retailer, which is going to, in the actual high street, is going to make a significant change, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, and particularly as that's where I buy my jeans. I have to say I'm a little upset about that. Yeah. I was going to ask next about regions, but our friend Ken Hatcher has already asked that same question. I mean, he said, "What about Wales?" And we will come on to Wales in just a second. But how are the regions looking? We've obviously got London top dog, East Midlands, West Midlands following. Yeah. Is Scotland still resurgent, or is it
It's not so good this month.
No.
It's down below the £200 million mark, so it's taken a bit of a decline this month. South West Wales, or South and Mid Wales and North Wales, is 290 million. So that's above usual. Where else? We're looking at Hertfordshire. That's over 200. We separate the home counties out. So as a whole, home counties will, if you add them all together, will be a significant part. But we have separated that out. But yeah, looking at it, Southwest, £364 million. So it has been this month, not a bad month of distribution, shall we say? But yeah, London as a whole is £2.4 billion.
Yeah, we've done all the upbeat, and we'll come on to the less upbeat in just a second. But just while you've got the list in front of you there, how many of the BC Live League table top the £100 million mark? I've actually got an idea. I think we should call them the 100 million plus club.
Yeah,
I may have a graphic for that by the time we do this again next month.
yeah. Well, we normally, as we speak over these many years that we have, we normally look at sort of like between 10 and 20, and this month is 17. So 17 businesses are in the £100 million club, which is above average, actually, slightly above average. Overall, there is this month companies winning work. We've recognised 324 companies are listed on the BC Live table, which last month was 333. So it's approximately the same.
There or thereabouts.
Yeah, and the number of projects in June is 516, whereas in May it was 551. So it's not dissimilar; it's a little bit less, but which would mean, because the projects are slightly bigger this month, because the value last month was 6.3 and this month was 7.2, and so yeah, the project sizes are a little bit bigger, and which is probably the jobs for the Ministry of Defence or those side, because they're longer term projects as well. So
now I've hinted at the fact that it's not all good news. What I find remarkable is the fact that we've been reporting on this, for over the first 6 months of this year, have all been very positive. 5, 6, and now £7 billion worth of work. And yeah, in the past week, we've seen Midas is making a loss for the first time in Lord alone knows how long, and Henry W. Pollard and Nobles Construction have closed, or are about to close their doors. How do you explain that? Is that COVID hangover, do you think?
Whoa, I think some part of it is, but I also believe this is my opinion, is the fact that we are suffering material and labour increases, which if you've signed contracts on a fixed price basis maybe 18 months ago, because of those shortages, we've now got inflation going through the actual industry. So probably there is something to do with that as well. And yeah, we're in a strange world where we've got an increase in workload, a decreasing amount of materials, so therefore an increase in price. So we've got to key up or start to actually produce more within the UK. And then also on the back of that, we hear obviously lorry drivers themselves, which were heavily supported by European people from Europe being lorry drivers in the UK, not returning after COVID. So we have a shortage of lorry drivers, which will then obviously put a significant issue with cost of those. So we're in a very strange time, really, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you mentioned the European drivers, because I think it was yesterday that this EU settlement scheme actually came to a close. So if you weren't registered as a migrant worker to be working here in the UK by yesterday, effectively it's time to go home. And
yeah,
as much as I'd like to say otherwise, I don't get the impression that the construction and demolition industry has done a huge amount to actually plug that gap that is now very much in our lap.
No, and we've still got a huge number of people on furlough. I think it's a time that we need to look at how we train people in different skills, but that takes time. You know, you can't be working in one sector and go into another sector immediately because you've got a training. So that's a heavy investment for a number of companies, and if they are struggling with their cash flow, or they're struggling with their increasing prices elsewhere, how are they going to square that circle? I don't know. It's going to be difficult over the next 6 months. But you know, we know the projects are there. The government wants us to build out of this, build back better. Is their kind of wording to all of this? So we can have those strap lines, but we actually need to do something about it. We need to put money in elsewhere. It's just not saying, okay, let's build this. We've got to put some kind of money towards training and getting people to work in the construction industry.
Just so incredibly frustrating. I mean, we've been aware of skill shortages. I've been writing about them for 30 years. We've been aware of them forever. We've got a boom, and there are companies that will not be able to take advantage of that boom because of a lack of foresight on their part, but also foresight on the part of training organisations and government to encourage people into this industry. It will just be such a wasted opportunity if we can't turn that around quickly enough.
Absolutely. And look, I can get on my soapbox, and I do get on my soapbox a number of times, but you know, the information that we collect is in real time, is live. And you can, I'm not a business analyst. I'm not trained as a business analyst, but what we are as an organization is extremely good at collecting this validated information. However, is it used by government authorities or the Construction Leadership Council or any of those? No. So my plea is on here is give me a call, because we want to support the industry, because that's what we're here to do. And we need you to look at our information and use your expertise in developing training programs and business, and helping businesses out in this difficult time. And it is a difficult time.
Absolutely. Now, I mentioned to Ken Hatcher there that I was going to come back to Wales, and the other bit of news, and I literally got this about 10 minutes before I came on air today, is that the Welsh Parliament is proposing a freeze on new road spending, which if you're a road builder based in Wales, I would imagine you're absolutely delighted to hear. That seems counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Like you, I've just seen that press release and going from there. The only hope I have is the way it's written is, I hope it's only future projects. It's not the ones that are on site at the present moment in time or going to be on site in the next, have been rubber stamped so far. But I do believe Wales needs connectivity, and if you start to stop one of the, or at least put a moratorium on it to say we're going to stop road building so far, because it looks like it's on an eco basis because of their zero targets of trying to get zero emissions. You've really got to have a plan B, and it's great to see the fact that we are trying to challenge the zero emissions and get to those levels, but you just can't stop people getting from A to B. And then if you are having roads that are clogged up, you're actually it's counterproductive, isn't it? Because you are going to be sitting in traffic jams on a single lane road, because and chucking out diesel fumes, petrol fumes, etc., etc. I don't understand it. I'd like to read more into it and to find out more about what it's about.
Absolutely. Now, you and I are speaking today on the first day of July, so it is officially summer. The sun is blinking through the window as we speak. Do we get a summer break this year, or do we do what we did last year and just push on through, do you think?
I have to say, in the last 2 weeks, we might be getting a summer break. The number of projects out currently out to bid and in the future has seen a decline in the last 2 weeks. So we may get a summer this time round. But what none of our figures actually take into account, and you're sitting there with somebody next door with on his jackhammer or whatever. None of the projects that we take into account, because we don't, it's because of the size of the projects, is people working on their houses or doing refurbishment works, etc. So we might be getting a break from the larger projects, but I think during the summer, I think it's going to be very busy with people doing DIY, new kitchens, new extensions, and doing their gardens. So building won't stop, but it might stop in different areas.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I live in a cul-de-sac, and we've got building work going on that side. We've got building work going on that side, and we've got two lots of building work going on over that way as well. You know, there's not that many houses here, but there seems to be building work going on just about all of them. So I don't know whether that's trying to get in before we completely run out of materials, or whether that's just people, you know, okay, we're not having a summer holiday this year, so we'll tart up the bedroom or whatever it might be.
And I think that's exactly it. It's a case of people, we normally spend £2,000, £3,000, £4,000 on a nice holiday for the family, but we can't go away because we can't, the anxiety of going away, whether you're going to be going away in green and coming back in amber or red or something like that, is just not worth it. So this year we're going to just have a staycation at home and do the odd days out, but also at the same time do our patio, do a pergola or whatever, isn't it? It's those sort of things.
I know you always deal in facts, Neil, but I do have to ask the question. You know, you've got 7.2 billion on one hand, you've got companies closing their doors on the other hand. How are we looking as an industry? How do you see the remainder of the year panning out?
Well, at the present moment in time, if you look at the rolling year, we're above 85 billion now. So the rolling year is pretty good. All indications are from the people that we speak to, and that's quite a few people, is the fact it's going to be a fairly good year. But there are going to be a few bumps in the road regarding materials and labour. What I really hope is the fact that clients who do pay everybody at the end of the day don't start to become a little bit more sharper in if there is an extension or a lateness to certain projects due to material shortages and due to labour shortages, and therefore hitting the contractors quite hard, which would just exacerbate the situation. But generally, the amount of tenders that are going through and the amount of contract awards going through, I see 2021 being a good year.
Well, we can all keep our fingers crossed. It would certainly be nice to keep reporting on the positive stuff. Now, obviously, anyone that watches this show will be aware that we, on most days of the week, if not all days of the week, we produced details of new project leads within the demolition sphere, which all come from the Builders Conference. But you do a whole lot more. We've just seen the BC Live League table. And I thought, while I've got you here and while we can still access that BC Live League table, that is just a snapshot. But take me through that, Neil, because when you look at, I'm just going to have a very quick look. When you look at the, I can't actually read it; it's too small on my screen. But I think it's the number 5 position there. It's that total there, monthly total, is made up of 4 or 5 or possibly even more projects. You can actually click on those totals and go through and mine that information even more closely, can't you?
Absolutely, yeah. What we've done, because we are a construction-based trade body, we've given this headline information away via bclive.co.uk as not as a tease, but it gives you an understanding. And you can, if you press on Kia Office and there's 20 projects down there, you can find out exactly which sector they're in and what groups. You can't find the detail because obviously we still need to be paid, our researchers, etc. Membership to us, you can actually mine down into that information in absolute depth, and you can find out who the contacts are, who the clients are, etc., etc. So this is just the headline side of stuff, but the business analyst side of stuff, you can find out through the platform. And we built this platform about 3 years ago and went live about 18 months ago, 2 years ago. And it is one of the most digitally advanced platforms out there at the present moment in time.
No, absolutely. I mean, I dip in and dip out on a fairly regular basis. I mean, I think the BC Live League table in itself is a great way to give yourself a bit of a boost in the morning and go and have a look. Oh, look, it's up again, which is always a nice thing. Bearing in mind there was a time back in sort of 2008, 2009, where you and I were talking about the £1 billion worth of work. Well, we're 7 times that total now, and it's been even more than that. But I think that additional information, I mean, as I say, I produce that on a daily basis. That depth, you can see who the client is, who the contractors are that are vying for the work, who the subcontractors are. There's absolute depth there. And it just reminds me of what you were saying earlier about the fact that this information is readily available. There is a cost, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a negligible cost. All people need to do is just reach out and grab that information, because it is incredibly valuable.
Exactly. If we want to be, I think one of the words people love to use is agile in the way we actually do our work, and plan for the future. Then we have that ability to pass that to you. We are working with a number of trade bodies to try and enhance that information. And on a regular basis, those organisations do ask us, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? Can you do that? Well, the platform has been designed not to be on a single railway track of just that's what we do. It's totally open. You can do whatever you want to it, and with development, etc. So it has limitless capabilities, or unlimited capability.
I mean, one of the things that struck me, and I do realise, and you touched on this, the fact that if you're a road builder, you don't just snap your fingers and become a house builder overnight. But going back to what we were saying about Wales, if Wales does decide to freeze spending on road building, there will be contractors, particularly subcontractors, I would guess, that are geared towards that. By signing up to the BC Live and to the Sereno platform, they can actually see where the next, that avenue of work is closed, but there's this avenue, and we can literally informed decision making information that's just readily available, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. If you want to look into a new market, say in Manchester or the Midlands, you can do a competitor analysis, you can do a client analysis, you can do all those sort of things. And it's not the ability to do your own bespoke reports. The reports are there for you to do. When we started building this platform, we actually had a team of contractors with us to do it, because there's a lot of other areas where you think to yourself, well, you only get given something. That's what you want. That's what you're being given, and that's it. So we said to them, what do you want? Because it's pointless me saying what I think you need. You tell me. And that's what we did. We built it, and then we brought the subcontractors in on the side of it and the suppliers in to say, what do you want? And so that's how the whole thing has been built. There's going to be areas where no doubt, technology is going to advance, etc., and we haven't got that there. But we've got this platform that is totally open to the construction. So you can find out in Manchester, what in a postcode even, how many projects are up there or being tendered for, etc. We are obviously limited to the researchers finding that information, but because we've been around since 1935, we are kind of that. Well, we are that trusted brand. And that goes a long way.
And you're also working in very close proximity. I mean, you're actually sharing your information with some trade associations as well, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Build UK, the largest construction trade body, recognised body, use our information, and they have a free access to the system that we've given them, and they can mine in depth, and they do, and they'll be bringing out in the next 48 hours. It's called the State of Trade Industry, because we can give these reports out, but sometimes we don't know what people want. And so therefore, if you give this access to people, we can do that. There's the Scaffolding Association, BISA, ECA, the Painting and Decorating Association, all these, and we're also heavily linked with the Considerate Constructors Scheme, where we cross-reference our information there, and we also provide information for the National Crime Agency and the government in certain sectors, but not enough, we believe, because it's all there, but we would like them to use it a great deal more, so we can plan. So we're not in this situation of today that we haven't got enough materials, or we haven't got enough labour, because it's pointless putting on courses in certain polytechnics, or polytechnics is an old thing, on colleges for one sort of kind of whether it be, I don't know, farming or whatever. I'm just picking a strange subject, when really we need civil engineers, but we can give that information.
Absolutely. Now, before the world went completely mad, Neil and I used to do these things face to face, and we'd been together for a couple of hours, and probably the first 55 minutes were always devoted to the subject of football. Neil is a Crystal Palace fan, so sadly, I'm a West Ham fan, so feeling slightly better about the world, but we are ultimately both English. Neil, how do you think the boys are doing?
Oh, I'm dreadful as a fan. Yes, I am a huge Crystal Palace fan and a season ticket holder, but I find it extremely difficult watching football on television, and my heart, I hide behind the settee and put my eye up every now and again to see the score or whatever, and try and busy myself somewhere else in the house to make sure I don't see the score, and then get very disappointed if I'm a Palace fan turning on and seeing I'm losing 3-0 or we're losing 3-0. But if I sit at a game, it's not such a problem. I don't mind. How the boys doing? I think they're doing okay. Ukraine's going to be I hope we don't underestimate what they've done so far. But yeah, over in Rome, it's a different venue for us. Obviously we normally, the last few games we've been at Wembley. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. And what I do like about the team is the fact that the industry does seem to be there. And Gareth Southgate, ex-Crystal Palace, obviously, great fella, seems to have worked out what his best team is, what his best players are for each game, which may be different, but most people wouldn't have even thought about Sacco being in that game against Germany, and most people would have been shouting for Phil Foden or Mason Mount or Jack Grealish, but he put it on and it worked, didn't it? And then bringing on Jack Grealish to give that extra boost provided the goals. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I really am, but I don't want to get overexcited because I'm a dreadful fan.
I think you've just summed up exactly the way that the England football fans feel. I mean, I'm watching them expecting what I believe to be the inevitable collapse, yes. But I exactly the same as you. I'm an England fan by birth, but I'm a West Ham fan by choice. So I was more interested in the performance of Declan Rice for England than I probably was in the performance of England overall. And you're trying to draw some link with Gareth Southgate, who I think most people would probably know as a Villa player?
Well, he was at Middlesbrough and Villa player, yeah. But he started his career off at Crystal Palace. So he won us which was the old first division. So we actually did win the old first division to get us promoted into what it was then the Premiership, obviously the very early days. But yeah, he started his career there, and but yeah, a great player for us. And
that's the other thing. That's the other thing that you and I have in common. We both support clubs that start players who then go on to be famous elsewhere.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's what I've kind of, Declan Rice is having a fantastic tournament, which is great for England, but not so good as a West Ham fan, because all of the major clubs across the world are now looking at him to think he's going to be a good buy, isn't he? So, Yeah, and we had it with Ian Wright, obviously, as well. You know, he started his career at Palace, and then Arsenal came along, and yeah, we know that we kind of are one of those clubs, regrettably, at Crystal Palace that feed the bigger clubs, and I know that, but I still support them, and I'll always support them.
Absolutely. Right, Neil, I've taken up all of your morning, so I'm going to let you get back to the day job to keep that data coming in, keep the demolition projects coming in for us, because they are very, very popular over here.
Yep.
Final question, I guess, is where can people find out more?
Well, you can find us obviously at buildersconference.co.uk. There is a button on the site to say I'd wish a demo, or you can always go old school and give us a call on 02008 770 0111. But yeah, just follow, and obviously the BC Live table is at bclive.co.uk. And I'm just looking at that. So since we've been on air, because it was at 0 when we came on air, we're now at £194.7 million. So already there are 6 projects on there, which is, you know, that's how live and real time.
That's proper real time information, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah, exactly right. So the researchers, I'll have to take my hat off to them, because they say I never say it to them, but they are extremely good at what they do.
No, totally agree. Well, give them my best regards. I know you're not all in the office together at the moment, but give them my best regards and my thanks for keeping us fed with demolition projects. Neil, I'm going to let you get back to the day job, and I shall see you again very, very soon.
I'm sure I will, and I'll speak to you soon. Okay.
Thanks, Neil.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
There you are. Possibly not so great news for Midas Construction, for Henry W. Pollard and Nobles Construction, or if you're a Welsh road builder, but for the rest of the industry, or an England fan, all looking pretty good, I would say. That will probably do us for today. These shows normally run for about 10-15 minutes, and we're now up to almost 50 minutes. So I'm sure you've all got better things to be doing than sat here watching my face. We'll say a very quick thank you to Neil for joining us today. Also thank James Herring for my extremely smart hat. I actually had a cartoon of myself done the other day, wearing my usual streamer hat. With hindsight, I wish I'd gone with this one, because I think this looks really, really good. So give James Herring a follow over on Instagram or on YouTube. As you can see, the logo says the name of his channel, Life Behind the Levers, which is a great name. So until tomorrow, when I'll be back 10 a.m, I'm going to love you and leave you. As I say, we'll be back 10 a.m. with the usual show, same time, same place. We'll also be back tomorrow night at 6 o'clock with that Rye Demolition episode of Demolition World. But until then, stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you very soon. All the best.